The Scythri Dominion did not conquer through war. They conquered through certainty. For 6,000 years, they had measured every species in the known galaxy by the resonance, a psionic field that revealed the depth of a being's consciousness. The stronger your resonance, the more evolved you were deemed. The weaker it flickered, the less you mattered. Humans barely registered. When Scythri scanners swept across a human mind, they returned almost nothing. A faint shimmer, like a candle seen from orbit. The Scythri had a word for species like that. Hollow. Princess Queen Violara Sorn had overseen the classification of 93 species during her 400 years of service. She had never filed a single one incorrectly. She was precise, composed, and certain of the natural order the resonance revealed. So when the Human Labor Exchange brought a small group of workers to Station Verith, she signed the intake documents without reading them twice. There were 12 humans in the group. Most were engineers or technicians, assigned to maintenance in the station's lower quadrant, where refugee families from 3 displaced species were being housed in temporary shelters. It was not important work. It was the kind of work you gave to species that ranked near the bottom of every list. One of them was named Ethan Cross. He was 32 years old. His file listed him as a former military field medic, current technical volunteer. He was average height, brown hair, quiet face. He carried a single bag and walked through the docking corridor without once looking up at the crystalline arches or the light bridges stretching overhead. He moved like a man who had learned not to expect anything from the places he entered. Violara met the group briefly on the arrival platform. She delivered the standard orientation address, her voice clear and even, her silver-blue hands folded before her. Her crown caught the station light, pale violet crystals set in a circlet of white metal that hummed faintly with resonance energy. Her ears, long and elegantly pointed, swept back along the sides of her head, marking her unmistakably as Scythri royalty. She looked at the humans the way she looked at every lower classification species. With courtesy. Without curiosity. Ethan stood near the back. He listened. He nodded once when the orientation was finished. Then he picked up his bag and followed the others toward the lower levels. She forgot about him within the hour. 3 days later, she remembered. Commander Drathis was a senior military officer stationed aboard Verith. He was tall even by Scythri standards, broad-shouldered, his resonance signature bright and aggressive. He had a habit of patrolling the lower levels to inspect the refugee sections, not because he cared, but because he enjoyed the sensation of being the most powerful presence in any room. He found Ethan in a maintenance corridor, replacing a ventilation panel. Drathis stopped and looked down at the human like a mountain studying a pebble at its base. Hollow 1, Drathis said. You are in a restricted access corridor. Ethan looked up from his work. Maintenance was requested for this section. I have the clearance code. Your clearance means nothing here. Your resonance is barely detectable. You should not be working above the service floor. Ethan held the commander's gaze for a moment. There was nothing confrontational in it. Nothing submissive either. Just a steady, patient attention, like a man who had been looked down upon enough times that it no longer felt like something requiring a response. Noted, Ethan said. He went back to his work. Drathis stood there for several seconds, waiting for something he could read, fear, anger, shame, any flicker his resonance could catch. He found nothing. The human psionic signature was a flat, faint hum, like trying to hear music through a sealed wall. He turned and left, irritated in a way he could not explain. Violara reviewed the corridor footage that evening during a routine security check. She watched the exchange twice. She could not explain why she watched it twice. She moved on. On the 7th day, the station broke. The thermal regulation system in the lower quadrant suffered a cascade failure, a chain reaction in the cooling matrix that sent temperatures spiraling upward toward lethal range. The lower levels, where 400 refugees lived, began to heat. Alarms screamed through every corridor. Red emergency light pulsed against crystalline walls. In the command center, Violara pulled up the damage projection. She read it once, then read it again because the first time did not feel real. The thermal core would reach lethal temperature in 18 minutes. The containment doors could be sealed from the command level, isolating the lower quadrant and protecting the rest of the station. The 400 refugees below would not survive. Or someone could descend into the thermal core access shaft and manually reset the 3 regulation nodes. But the temperature inside the shaft was already beyond safe limits for Sathari physiology. Their luminous skin was refined, elegant, not built for extreme heat. No one in the command center could survive more than 4 minutes inside. The reset procedure required at least 12. Seal the containment doors, Drathis said. His voice was steady, certain. The mathematics are clear. Violara's hand hovered over the control interface. 400 lives. Families. Children. Numbers that were very easy to calculate and very difficult to carry. She closed her eyes. She began to give the order. Wait. The voice came from near the service entrance. Ethan Cross was standing there, a maintenance tool belt around his waist. He had come up to report the failure and arrived in time to hear the calculation that would end 400 lives. Human, this does not concern you, Drathis said. How long to reset the nodes? Ethan asked. He was looking at Violara, not Drathis. 12 minutes, Violara said. She did not know why she answered. The shaft temperature exceeds survivable range for you, Ethan said. Not for me. The room went still. Humans tolerate a wider thermal range, he said quietly. Not comfortably. But I can function in those conditions for 15 minutes. Maybe a little more. Violara stared at him. She reached out with her resonance instinctively, trying to read what was behind those words. She found the same faint shimmer. The same almost nothing. You could die, she said. Maybe, he said. But they definitely will if nobody goes. He did not wait for permission. He turned and walked through the service entrance, moving toward the lower levels with the same unhurried, certain stride he had used the day he arrived. No running. No dramatic gesture. Just a man walking toward fire because someone had to. Violara opened comms to track him. She watched his biosignal descend through the station levels. She heard his breathing change as the heat reached him, faster, harder, but controlled. The breathing of someone who understood pain and had chosen to move through it. He reached the first node at minute 3. He reset it with burned hands, his gloves already melted through. He reached the second node at minute 7. His voice came through the comm, raw and strained but clear. Second node reset. Moving to third. Your tissue damage is approaching critical, the medical officer said from beside Violara. Her voice was very tight. Copy that, Ethan said. Nothing else. He reached the third node at minute 11. He reset it. The cascade stopped. The cooling system roared back to life. The lower levels began to drop toward safe temperature. 400 lives. Ethan walked out of the shaft at minute 14. His uniform was blackened. His hands were wrapped in torn strips of his own undershirt, the skin beneath raw and blistered. He was carrying a small Vethrani child, a girl no older than 5 who had wandered into the service corridor during the evacuation and become lost in the smoke. He set her down gently on the deck. He made sure she was steady on her feet. Then he sat against the corridor wall, closed his eyes, and breathed. Violara went to him. She walked down from the command center through 3 corridors and across 2 light bridges and she went to him herself. She did not send anyone else. She stood over him. He opened his eyes and looked up at her. Why, she said. The word came out harder than she intended, almost angry, because something inside her was shaking and she did not understand what. He looked at her. His eyes were brown, tired, full of something vast she could not name. Because they were scared, he said. And someone had to go. She reached out with her resonance one final time. Not a scan. Something deeper. She opened herself fully to whatever was inside him, the way she had not done with a lower classification being in 200 years. And this time, because his walls were down, because exhaustion and pain had stripped away whatever barrier humans kept between themselves and the universe, she saw. He was not hollow. He was the furthest thing from hollow she had ever touched. Inside Ethan Cross was an ocean. Fear, real, screaming, animal terror. The kind that begs a mortal body to run from fire, to save itself, to survive. It had been howling the entire time he was in that shaft. Every step. Every breath. He had heard it at full volume and kept walking. Grief, old and layered, folded into the center of him like stone pressed under centuries of weight. People he had lost. Names she could not read but could feel the shape of. He carried them everywhere. They never left. He had never expected them to. And beneath all of it, holding everything together the way gravity holds a world, love. Not the calm, diffused compassion the Sathari shared through the resonance. Something fiercer. Something that burned because it knew it was temporary. A love for people he had never met. For a child he would never see again. For the plain, desperate fact that they were alive and afraid, and he could do something about it. He felt everything. Every moment in that burning shaft. At full volume. With no resonance to share the weight. With no centuries of life to learn how to carry it gently. Humans were not hollow. They were so full that the resonance could not read them the same way light could not reach the bottom of a deep ocean. Everything was inside. Compressed. Contained. Carried alone. And they still moved forward. Vylara stepped back. Her hands were trembling. Her breath came unevenly. In 400 years of service, she had never felt anything like this, not fear, not awe, but the ground-shifting sensation of discovering that everything she had been certain about was built on something incomplete. She returned to the command center. She sealed the door. She opened a direct channel to the Sathari homeworld, Priority 1, voice only, the kind of call she had never made in her career. Her father answered after 3 tones. Emperor Kale Sorn. 2,000 years old. The deepest resonance signature in the known galaxy. Vylara. What has happened? Father. Her voice was steady. Her hands were not. She pressed them flat against the console. That human is not ordinary. Silence. Humans are classified as hollow, Vylara. Their resonance is negligible. They are not hollow. She paused. Father, I opened my resonance fully. I saw inside him. They are not empty. They are full. Everything they feel, every fear, every grief, every love, they carry it inside, alone, with no way to share it, for their entire short lives. Her voice did not break. It deepened. And they keep moving. He walked into fire carrying all of it, and he did not stop. The channel was silent for a very long time. You are certain, he said. It was not a question. Come here, she said. Come and see for yourself. He came without ceremony. One vessel. No escort. He docked at Station Varith on a quiet morning and walked the corridors with the slow, deliberate steps of a being who had witnessed civilizations rise and fall and had learned that the most important truths were usually the quietest ones. Vylara brought him to the medical bay where Ethan sat on the edge of a treatment platform, his hands freshly bandaged, a cup of water resting on his knee. He looked tired. Not broken. Just a man sitting still after a day that had asked more of him than any day should. He looked up when the Emperor entered. He did not stand, not from disrespect, but because his body had already given everything it had. He met the Emperor's eyes with that same flat, patient attention. "Ethan Cross," Violara said. "This is Emperor Kale Sorn." Ethan nodded once.